Market's down just a little bit at the moment, but it's mostly been ranging sideways over the last 24 hours. That said, today might be wild. If you check the price of XRP and it's a fair bit lower or a fair bit higher by the time you're watching this, there's a good chance it might have something to do with this. Here's the headline from CNBC. Fed Chair Powell set to deliver big Jackson Hole speech Friday. Here's what Wall Street expects. So I want to share some thoughts on this and explain why the market actually cares what this guy has to say. I'll also share with you perspective from a few chart analysts out there, including a couple XRP chart analysts who have shared what they think is most probable here in the short term. And it'll be interesting to see how things pan out given what they're saying, but also given whatever the heck is about to unfold here. Now, as I record this video, I'll note it is 6:12 a.m. Central Time, which is my time zone here in the Midwest in the United States. So August 22nd, Friday, of course, 2025. So this speech is less than 3 hours away. It's going to be, well, if it's on time, it'll be at 9 a.m. Central, so that's 10 Eastern. And the market participants are absolutely going to be hanging on every single word. And we'll see how the market responds. And it always seems so silly to be like, this one guy can come out and then like global markets just go ballistic, whether it's good or bad. It's just the whole concept is silly to me. But that's the world we live in, because reasons, folks. But no, I'll explain why. But yes, today potentially could be wild. But before going further, I do want to be clear, I do not have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. All right, so you guys are future people. You know more than me, at least if it's after Jerome Powell has given his speech, you know more than me. But as I record this, XRP is $2.82. Bitcoin's at 112,412 bucks. And here's a few bullet points from this headline. I'm not going to read this whole article. I just want to dive into like the key points, the things that you need to understand as far as the implications for today. But as far as Jerome Powell, here you can see the first bullet point. Fed Chair Jerome Powell is set to deliver what almost certainly will be his last keynote address in the central bank's annual conclave event, during the most tumultuous times in history, one of the most tumultuous times in history. Amid several controversies, Powell could use the speech to at least take a sideswipe at the political distractions, even if he holds to past practice of not taking direct aim. Yeah, so that would... he'd be estranged from sufficient professionalism if he decides to do that. That's, historically not something that a Fed chair should be delving into here. And it'll be interesting to see, though, because if you've been paying attention to what news headlines, you know that Trump is doing more than pushing Jerome Powell's buttons. He's made it very clear that he thinks the guy's incompetent and that rates should obviously be lower. That's Trump's position. Then third bullet point, the speech is billed as an economic outlook and framework review, indicating Powell will take time to provide his views on broad conditions as well as discuss the Fed's long-term policy goals. And so ding, 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 right there. That is the reason that people are expecting some fireworks today. So we'll see if they end up being correct here. So why does the Fed matter? Why is everyone watching Jerome Powell's speech at Jackson Hole this morning, Wyoming? Well, it comes down to this, frankly. The Fed controls the cost of money. When interest rates go up, borrowing's more expensive, liquidity dries up as banks tighten lending standards, of course. And that's why risk assets like stocks and crypto take a hit. That's why this matters. If you're an XRP holder and you're wondering what's happening today, if we end up seeing that volatility, well, there you go. And so when rates go down, of course, the opposite happens. Money flows more freely. Risk appetite returns, and markets rally. Because when there's more money easier going around, it's going to get put in a lot more places, including riskier assets. And crypto, of course, including XRP, absolutely considered risky. So, but that's also why you get the incredible rewards. If we continue to be right, and I still think XRP is obviously an early winner of the crypto space, that's how you get the life-changing wealth. But that's also why Powell's words, Fed Chair Jerome Powell's words, move markets so violently. He isn't just giving a speech, he's signaling how much fuel, or frankly lack thereof, the Fed is about to apply to the entire financial system. And because crypto sits on the riskier end of the spectrum, it reacts even harder. And yes, and I understand. By the way, I know like close to half of my audience is outside the United States. And so, yes, I understand. This is just from one country, the United States. I get it. But the United States is the largest capital market on the planet. So ramifications of this, absolutely, unquestionably, truly global. So, if you've ever wondered why XRP and the rest of the crypto market suddenly pump or dump after a Fed statement, this is it. What Powell says at Jackson Hole isn't just central bank talk. It's a preview of how much money might be sloshing around the system tomorrow, and crypto lives and dies on that flow. And so even though this isn't an official FOMC meeting, Federal Open Market Committee meeting, it's still, the market participants are absolutely going to be looking for signals here and responding in real time. We live in the age of information. Markets respond instantaneously. Now, that said, responses tend to be fairly short-lived. So, unless something truly wild is revealed, even a potential negative market response, it'll likely be relatively short-lived. That's how these things normally go anyway. But, if you see wild volatility day, which is certainly possible, there's a good chance this is the reason. So, what is the market hoping and expecting from Powell's speech this morning? Well, markets are basically expecting a 25 basis point cut in September for the federal funds rate, so 0.25%. And traders, frankly, they've priced that in on a global scale. That's been priced in. So, but that's also why, if there's a signal that maybe that's not going to happen now, oops, because that's been priced in. Wait a minute, we priced in something that's not how it's going to be. Yeah, and so that's why you could get some negative action there. Now, if he's indicating, something else, because, frankly, look, honestly, more importantly, here's what investors are really looking for. They're looking for and hoping that Powell lays groundwork, not just for the next cut, because again, like I said, that's already priced in, but they're hoping that he signals a series of additional cuts throughout the year. Like that's really it. That's what they'd really, so that would set the market on fire in a good way. But fire in a bad way would be if they're like, oh, we're not getting any cuts anymore. If that's what the market perceives as likely based on whatever cryptic messaging this guy puts out here, well, there you go then. And also, by the way, as a reminder, so at the last FOMC meeting at the end of July, the Fed voted to keep rates steady at 4.25% to 4.5%. But it's worth noting, there were two governors who dissented, and in both of those governors, they pushed for a 0.25 point cut, marking the first time since 1993 that more than one Fed governor broke with the chair in a single decision. So that's telling right there. That's a signal to markets right there. Their dissent, frankly, it underscored the growing internal split over whether inflation progress justifies, easing policy sooner than Powell and the majority prefer, which is separate from what the Trump administration wants, obviously. And by the way, there are only 12 humans who get to vote. So 2 out of 12 said, hey, majority, you're wrong. So just something to consider. By the way, this is interesting also. As reported by Mario Nawfal, and he's just a guy that's really popular on X, 2.3 million followers here, but also many other sources have reported this. Trump has scheduled at noon an Oval Office announcement. And so that would be Eastern time. So that'd be what, 11? Yes, that'd be 11 a.m. Central, which is my time zone. So this is 2 hours after Powell's speech. Trump is going to be giving an announcement. There's no word on what it's going to be about. It could be completely unrelated. But the timing is kind of suspect, and it makes me kind of think, okay, does he want to leave it open just in case he wants to comment on something that Jerome Powell says here? It's possible. That's just speculation. I admit I don't know, but I thought I'd just throw it as an add-on here just because you could see some additional fireworks a couple hours after Jerome's speech from this. We'll see. Just something to consider here. Here's a post from Coin Bureau, and I like this meme. This is great. It says, they wrote here, if Powell doesn't announce any rate cut, ... And here you can see it's Jerome Powell taking a selfie with a sea of market red behind him. Yeah, that's about right, if there's no rate cut. Now, of course, again, it's not an official FOMC thing, so he'd just be dropping hints here effectively, but still. Yeah, and maybe the market's reading too much into this, or maybe it's going to be a very even-keeled speech, in which case you don't see as much volatility. But I'm just telling you, we don't know. Like, I admit I don't know, but there absolutely is the possibility that today really truly could be wild. It's possible. Then there's also this from Crypto Insight UK. He shared a GIF with Powell here, and he said, Jay Powell getting ready to drop a can of whoop ass on our portfolio. And I just laughed because I was like, yep, he could be. I mean, he could be. I mean, he could do something really good for us, but I'm not going to hold my breath. We'll see here. Here's a post from chart analyst CW. He said, Bitfinex whales continue to buy long positions in Bitcoin. They are preparing for a rally. Now, this was as of 3:23 a.m., so close to 3 hours ago. So now it's 6:21 a.m. as I'm recording this video, Central Time. So close to 3 hours ago, whales are expecting good things. So take for what it's worth. We'll see what happens here. Here's a post from chart analyst Greg Crypto. He said, Papa Powell will nuke or blast the markets today. Today, Jackson Hole Economic Policy Symposium, where Fed Chair Jerome Powell is scheduled to speak on Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern. It is game of power between the Fed and Trump. Pain might be caused short-term, but the pivot will be coming, and it is inevitable because without restrictive policies, you do not conduct at the end quantitative easing. Let us wait and see what Papa Powell will do. So, again, there is broad expectation that there's going to be some cut. It's just like, is it just going to be one? Is it going to be more than that? Will there be a series? And you know what the market wants. The market wants a series. But the Fed has separate concerns from just that. There's the concern of what does that mean for inflation if you inject a bunch of money using a fire hose into the economy. So there's that. And then there was this post from chart analyst Credible Crypto, and this is from yesterday in the afternoon. So let's see how things pan out after what happens today. People have been waiting for this. But he wrote, Bitcoin, the chart on the left, made new local lows overnight, but many alts are currently printing higher lows, which is nice to see. XRP and Ethereum are shown on the right as an example. For Bitcoin, we have key higher time frame lows at $111,700, which we are likely to take. And below that, what is likely the most significant / important area of support on the chart right now, to keep scenario 2 intact, $107,000 to $110,000. Let's see how things develop here. So in the context of all that, knowing that XRP is absolutely going to follow in the footsteps of Bitcoin here in the short term anyway, given that's the case, depending on what happens here, and this is why I started the video saying what I'm saying, if your XRP is a lot lower by the time you're seeing this, well, I'm willing to bet that Bitcoin is too, and this is probably why. If it's lower literally on today, Friday, Friday as I record this, August 22nd here, that's probably why. So let's hope maybe we get some actual good news here and the market gets what it wants. Now, even if we don't, I do not believe this is the end of the world. Even if we don't get the positive sounding words from this one dude that controls like markets on a global scale, which again I still think is absurd. The fact that there's a position where one dude can just come out and then the whole market just explodes, or in a good or bad way, depending on what he says, it's just completely silliness. Like we should not have things structured in such a way. Opportunity for reward investing in the crypto market for the remainder of this cycle. So don't freak out even if that happens. I just wanted you to understand why things are happening if they end up happening. And again, it's certainly possible it could be a big nothing, but I don't know, you don't know, well, you're future people, maybe you know, but I don't know, because it really does depend, if you're talking the very short term, on what this one fool says. That's the truth of the matter. I'm not a financial